Welcome to The Tea with Martha, where we spill the tea on the untold truths and real struggles of entrepreneurship. I'm Martha Pachow, a fellow business owner who's learned the ins and outs of business the hard way. Get ready for unfiltered discussions on the highs, lows, and messy realities of entrepreneurship. It's time to spill the tea and vent it out with us. Hi, Tate. It's so good to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Martha. It's an honor that you would even ask me to be here. So thank you. And I'm very excited for your podcast.
Oh, well, I am excited to have you. A little bit about Tate. She is a friend of mine from our kids' school, and we met and we just kind of connected. And then we've been seeing each other here and there at different real estate conferences and, of course, at the kids' school. So we have a couple of things in common, and I love your big heart. And so I thought of you, and I thought, I have to tell her story.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate, and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah. Like I said, thank you again. It's an honor that you would ask me to be here. And I look up to you. I think you're doing great, big things. So I'm excited for your podcast to hit and for everyone to hear all the great things you're sharing.
Thank you.
Congratulations to you. So I got started in real estate. Prior to being an investor, I was a stay-at-home mom. And prior to that, I was a pre-K teacher for 2 years before having my kids. So towards a couple of years into being a stay-at-home mom, my girls were already starting pre-K. I was pregnant with my third son. And I just felt a calling on my heart that I needed to do something on top of being a mom to my children. I needed something else for myself. Just the everyday in and out of being a stay-at-home mom, I just was seeking something for me. And I started praying hard because I was just seeking God. Like, I knew I wanted to get into flipping homes. And the reason I knew I wanted to get into that was we remodeled our own home. And while everyone told me it was going to be the worst experience of my life, I ended up falling in love with every part of it.
Nice.
We moved out of our home for 3 months. Contractors moved in and took over. And every day I met with them. I ran the whole show. I talked to them. I made sure everything was on timeline, picked the design out. And towards the end of it, one of the contractors told me, he said, I'm really surprised by how well you did this. I was not expecting for you to know how to run this show. And he's like, you did an amazing job. And I usually don't see it like this before when I work with other clients. And that was like the fire that lit in me. I want to do this. I want to do this.
Good.
And I told my husband, and at first he was very like, no, let's not. Like, that's a big risk. You're talking about a lot of money in this, in these deals. What if it goes wrong? So I prayed for literally 2 years, asking God, if this is from you, please make it happen. If it's not from you, take it away from my heart. Like, I don't want it. If this is not what you want for me, I don't want it. After praying for 2 years, my kids are now older. They're both in preschool. I'm pregnant with my son. It was in 2020, COVID hit, and I just saw the world around me. Everyone was struggling. Financially, they were struggling. People were, ill. And it made me realize, like, the time is now. I can't keep dreaming and I can't keep wishing.
Yes.
The time is now. I have to take action. And
I love this.
I went to my husband. I was like, I have to do this. This is the time. I need to do it. And reluctantly, he said, okay, this is, what we have in our savings account. He invested into my first deal, and it was a small condo in Old Town. It was all we could afford at that time because I was afraid to take out a hard money loan. That just sounded scary. Hard money? Like, are they going to come take my house? What are they going to do? So we just did something small that we can afford on our own to get my feet wet. And I was able to do this with a newborn son in my arm. And that's another reason why I wanted to get into real estate investing, was because I didn't want to put my son in daycare. I had the fortunate ability to stay home with the girls, and I wanted to give that to my son. So it gave me the flexibility to work without putting in the 9 to 5. And he can come with me, and he's been coming with me since day one. One of his favorite tools from the start was a toy screwdriver, because that's all he saw.
Yeah, that is amazing. I just love these stories, and we'll get into kind of where you're at and what you've learned in the process. But I want to go back. I want to take a moment to talk about how you had something in your heart, something lit up, and it took you a while, right? Because maybe different reasons. It might be fear. It might be the timing wasn't right, maybe finances, right? And having to do this first step is a big deal. Can you talk about that for a second? What was it actually like when you said, okay, I'm going to do this? And what did it look like? What did you do? What did you say to convince maybe, or to rally around your husband so he can get on board? Because it is a big financial step, right? And tell us a little bit about that. I think people want to hear those stories.
Yeah, it's very scary, to be honest. It's fearful because you're worried, can I do this? Will I lose the money like my husband said I am? Like, what is it gonna look like? But I think there comes a time where you can, like, I had been praying for 2 years for it. But there's a time where you have to take action and trust God that He's gonna keep carrying you through it.
Girl. Yes.
Action combined with prayer is where God's going to work His miracles over you. So I instantly got in touch with a realtor who was best friends with my neighbor. It was a recommendation. Her dad happened to be a GC. So instantly I got my team. I got my general contractor. I got my realtor. We found the property. So that gave my husband a little bit more confidence. It's like, okay, you have a GC, you have the team. So I started building that team around me. And we bought that first property, and I was nervous. But thankfully, because I had a GC, he was able to take more of the reins on that and lead the way. I think one of the biggest things is you will always be scared, but you have to take action. You have to take action and trust. Trust that God's going to take you where He wants you to go. If this is His will over your life, He's going to take you where you need to go. You just have to take the action, and it's going to be scary. And no matter where you are in the journey, constantly taking that action, it's going to keep getting scary and scary because you're going to take bigger actions and bigger actions.
It's like a muscle, right? I always talk about this. Yeah. It doesn't get easier. The bigger the project, the bigger the outcome, the bigger the risk. And so that means the bigger the maybe the fear is at the time. And I'm sure you still have those second thoughts sometimes, right? Maybe when you're putting offers on places and things like that. But like, I love that you said fear or taking action. It's the biggest step.
It is.
And it's so true. And coupling with faith and really trusting God that if He puts something in our heart, that He will make the way as long as we take the action. He's a respecter of people. He won't force people to do things. Yep. And so it is, I just love that. So fast forward to now, tell us a little bit of kind of what you have going on, maybe what have been, aside from the big step, what has been the biggest challenge that you've overcome, and where are you now?
One of the biggest challenges I've overcome is growth. I knew from day one I had to grow in my business, and I couldn't do that on my own. I got into this business because I'm naturally an introvert. So I was like thinking, okay, I don't have to work for anyone. I only answer to myself, and I talk to my GC, and that's about it. But to grow, I had to take on private money lenders in my business to allow me to buy multiple properties at the same time. Currently, I have 7 flips under my name, and that would not be possible without private money lenders.
So awesome.
So that was the biggest challenge of, okay, how do I find private money lenders? Like, who would want to invest in me financially? Money is the biggest thing for all of us. We hold on to it tightly. So to say to someone, hey, can you please give me $100,000? I need to buy a house. Like, who's going to say, okay? Yeah. So that was one of the biggest challenges, is how do I put myself out there and have the confidence to know that my business and who I am and my work is worthy of that, and people will see that. I think it's always scary to ask people for money, but at the hindsight of it, if you think about it, every company out there has investors. No one's doing it on their own. From Apple to Google, everyone has investors. So it's just trusting that your hard work will show to other people, and putting yourself out there and speaking to them. And I'm an introvert naturally, but if you talk about real estate, I'll become an extrovert all day long. Yeah. So just when you talk
sometimes we have to step into the thing we don't think we are, or where we don't feel comfortable, and it's a hat we have to wear. Yeah. And it's okay to put it on and take it off.
Exactly. Yeah. There's moments where I'll talk to you about real estate all day long, but then I just want to go home and just be by myself. But I think allow yourself and your passion and your hard work to shine to other people. When you start any business, it's going to be nerve-wracking, and then you're going to need investors to grow it. And don't be afraid to seek those investors. Your hard work will speak for itself, and people will see that, and they will want to invest in you.
I love this.
Eventually, you're not going to people to ask them for money. They're going to come to you and say, hey, I have $100,000. How can I invest in your business? Because I see your work. I see you putting yourself out there. I see you getting results. I want to invest in you. So don't be afraid to put yourself out there, and those investors will come to you and they will see you.
So tell me about where you're at now. I know you said you have 7 flips going on, which is significant amount. I mean, think about when you started with one condo, and I see your work. I'm always like amazed at your projects. They're so gorgeous and beautiful. And it's like everything else, right? It looks, everything on social and everything we post is beautiful, but the behind the scenes, right? And tell me how you've learned this strategy, how you learn to get investors and how you learn to scale. I mean, it seems like you are a natural at it, but at some point you need additional education and information to go to the next level, right? And so I know we ran into each other at InvestorCon here in Scottsdale, and I always love going to conferences and things that not only can you learn and go back and implement, but also surround yourself and make connections. So tell me a little bit about that, how you learned the process, how you made your connections to the money lenders, just kind of that behind the scenes, the not so sexy, hey, look at the project's done, look how beautiful my countertops are.
Oh, yeah. There's so much that goes behind that. And one of the biggest ways I was able to grow was investing in myself through mentorship. After that first condo, I knew if I wanted to get far with this business, I had to invest into a mentorship program. Someone who's been there, done that, and can pave the way for me. So I make little mistakes because they're teaching me how to get to where they are faster. And I reached out to different mentorship groups. I found one that I loved. And up front, it was $15,000. So it sounded like it was a lot at that time. I just hadn't even barely sold my first flip. I'm like, you want me to give you $15,000 to teach me how to? But that paid me back in dividends. That investment was huge.
Girl, so good. You're speaking my language.
You have to invest in yourself through mentorships, podcasts. I listen to podcasts every day. It helped me to rewire my brain to see everything differently. Growing up, we're not taught about investing. We're not taught about growing our money, especially coming from 2 immigrant parents. I was taught that was for other people. It's not for us. So I had to rewire my brain to say, no, I can do it too. It's not for other people. It's through hard work. Nobody just gets there through luck, but I can put in the hard work and get there too. So it was about a combination of mentorship. That is huge. Always, always invest in yourself first, because no one else will want to invest in you unless if you invest in yourself. Pay the mentorship. It will come back in dividends to you. Read the books. Listen to the podcast. Get in rooms. The InvestorCon, that was a huge one for me. I loved it. I also go to monthly real estate investor meetings with other fellow lady investors where we talk about each other. Sometimes you feel alone in this business. So getting in a room full of other people, especially women who are there and doing what you are, it's so nice to talk about with them and see that what you're going through is not an isolated situation. They're going through it too. And you can share and give each other feedback, referrals. And just talk about it with everyone. It makes you feel more at whole and okay for the process that you're going through.
Yeah. It's so I think underestimated, that power of community. And in my time, I've been doing masterminds and mentorship programs. I was in a time in my business where I was burnt out and I needed help. I had to max out my capacity, and I had gone to school to be a teacher. I never went to school to be a business owner, right? I didn't have a business degree. And so I remember I took the first big step was this going to a conference. It was the travel, it was the time, it was thousands of dollars, which now are like pennies compared to what I've invested over the last, maybe 8 years. And I can hands down attribute the success that we have found. I still feel like there's so much to accomplish, but whatever we've been able to accomplish, just like you, is thanks to these mentorships and people and getting in the rooms. And I think there's so much value, even just sitting at a table on your break, right? Or during lunch, and these organic conversations. One, you get inspiration, stories. This is the power of podcasts. This is why I wanted to have you here, when you tell people stories, and it just creates this picture of, if she did it, I can do it too. And there's power in and storytelling. And there's power in being in rooms, and there's power in positioning yourself that even when you didn't feel, I don't know if this happened to you, but I know it's happened to me. Sometimes I'm still like, I get into bigger rooms that I'm like, what am I even doing here, right? These
all the
people
time.
are doing like crazy things far from where I feel like I'm at.
Yeah.
But it's still, I still push myself because that's where the expansion happens.
Exactly.
I would rather be a little fish in a big pond than a big fish in a little pond,
Yes.
you know? And not because I want to have any sort of badge on my on my shoulder, but just because of that expansion that happens and that learning and the capacity to dream bigger and your mind just expands. There's something magical that happens in that connection with other people. And of course, the organic learning and the daily, it's what we feed ourselves, right? It's
you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable because when you're in these rooms, you feel uncomfortable. You're like, oh, that person owns 100 units? Like, how? I feel like nothing compared to her.
Right.
But she started from 1 unit also.
Yes.
So you want to learn, how does she go from 1 unit to 100 units?
Yes.
So you have to be okay with feeling uncomfortable because these are the people who are going to pave the way and show you that it is possible. And you're going to learn from them and grow from that experience. So you have to always be the small fish in the big pond to grow.
So true. So true. Tell me how you juggle your daily life with 3 beautiful kids and the projects, and now you have more projects. And so what does that look like behind the scenes? You know, what is it when you got to run because a contractor calls or, you know, just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't separate my work and business, my personal and business life from each other. I answer the calls, I answer the emails in front of my kids. I want them to see the possibilities that are out there for them. I don't want to keep that separate and hidden from them. I want them to know anything's possible. So I'm okay with answering emails and phone calls. During summer breaks, when the kids are home and I have to go once or twice a week, I go on these properties to check. I take them with me. They'll complain. They'll be like, why again? Why am I going?
Yes.
And I'm like, well, do you like the school you go to? This is what pays for it. So I want them to see, and I put in little nuggets in their head as we're driving to school. I talk about like, what is, if I bought this property for this amount and I put in this much work and I sell it for this, what is my profit? That's math problems that are not on their worksheets at school.
They are not on their worksheets.
So I want them to understanding the word of entrepreneurship, investments. So I try to do everything while I can while they're in school. During those 8 hours they're in school, I'll try to get, but if there's something that still takes, I need to answer an email or a phone call. With my son, since he was with me through it all, he got to come, he just now started preschool. So now he's kind of not in as much, but he was there from day one. I was holding his hand, holding him in my arms, pushing him in the stroller. He was there from day one with me. So I let them see what the world I'm in.
Yes.
So they can see, and I want them to understand it's okay throughout your life to change. I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. After I got to experience that and love every moment of it, I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur now. And I want them to know it's okay to change career paths and be okay to fall in love with something new. You don't have to just stick to one box for the rest of your life. You can fall in love with something new each time and grow and expand and become someone new. Who you were at 25 is not going to be who you are at 35. So
You're speaking my language, sister.
I want them to see that and understand that and be okay with that the world is full of possibilities for them. And I always tell them, if you graduate high school and you don't want to go to college, but you have a smart, amazing business plan, I'll be your first investor. Because I want you to take whatever's in your heart and the gifts and talents God has given you and run with it. Because it can take you anywhere in life.
Yes.
So I bring that world to them. I don't keep it away from them.
Awesome. I love that. And, when we think of parenting, at the end of the day, it's our life and we model, and what we do speaks volumes far more than what we say.
Yeah.
And so setting the example, I think of that too sometimes when I, sometimes in my business, I have had to, as my kids have grown, they have not wanted to come with me to work because they've outgrown that season.
Yeah.
And so then I'll feel guilty because they're not around me, or I'm doing something else. I'm in a meeting, or, just not with them. And we'll talk about it and they fully understand because they've seen me. They grew up in it as well. And so they can kind of picture what I'm doing and what they see the fruits of the labor that we put in. And we'll talk about it, you know. Oh, I remember when, you know, and this and that. And you think that they don't remember because my kids were little. I mean, they were 2 and 4 when we kind of went from a home situation to a center. Yeah. And so they remember the weekends when we were working on the facilities, you know, and things like that. And so they remember those times. And I remember that my boys I would buy them this plastic toolbox. Like they had a plastic toolbox because we were working and doing things. And so I wanted them to feel like they were helping and contributing. And I still have pictures and I just love it. You know, they'd have their hammer and they'd be banging on the walls thinking they were helping. But they remember, you know, and at the time I remember feeling bad. Maybe we weren't out at the zoo or we weren't out doing all the things because we had to do everything ourselves, most of it. And so, but I'm so thankful for it now because they don't remember the fact that, oh, I missed out on going to the zoo. Exactly. Because then there was a season that we did all those things after we put in that hard work and that's what we had in our hands at the time. And we did the best we could. And I firmly believe God honors that stewardship in those times where, hey, this is my capacity. This is what I can do. These are my priorities. I want to have my children with me. And I know a lot of women and a lot of women listening might feel some mom guilt sometimes because we juggle and sometimes we do have to sacrifice some time away because we have to go to these conferences or we have to go to the thing that maybe we can't take the kids to. And I know I still struggle. I've gotten a lot better because my kids now are so uninterested in doing things. But it's so powerful even now to recall those times. And so I commend you for that. I think that's so wonderful that you bring them. And even when they're complaining that they don't want to go, I know all too well that feeling. But I am excited to see the journey and what's ahead of you. I know you're going to do great things and you're going to continue to be that person of, you're going to be that person that like when you go into the conference or you go to these rooms, right? They have 100 units. You're going to be that one that helps the lady behind you. And I firmly believe that. I mean, in such a short time, you've done amazing things. And
thank you.
Yeah. Anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
I definitely will say, do not fear. Whatever God has put in your heart, whatever dream it is, take the action. You can listen to podcasts and read books all day long, but it's your action God's gonna, use to take you where you need to go. Do not be afraid to take action. Put that one step forward. You will always have the mom guilt. That'll never go away. You'll always have the stress. They'll never go away, but you will learn how to handle it better.
Yes.
And with every foot you put forward, it's another muscle that you're exercising and you're just going to get stronger and better at it, and God's going to take the rest of it and you'll see the blessing of your fruit. So don't be afraid to take action. He's put that dream in your heart for a reason. He wants to see you go towards it.
Amazing. So true. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for your wisdom and all the nuggets you dropped today. I am sure it's going to bless many. If there's anybody listening out there that would want to invest with you or follow you and just kind of see your beautiful projects, I know you said you have several of them, and I know you probably have a lot more coming down the pike. So tell us where we can find you.
My Instagram handler is Desert Flipper. My website is desertflipperaz.com. And you can also email me at tate@desertflipperaz.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tate.
Thank you, Martha.
It's been an honor.
Thank you.
Yay.
Thank you. It's been fun chatting.
Thank you for joining me on another episode. If you enjoyed today's tea, make sure to follow, rate, and leave a review. Stay connected with us on social media at The Tea with Martha for updates and behind-the-scenes moments. Remember, every woman's story is a sip of inspiration, and together we're brewing success. This is Martha signing off. Cheers!